How did Subaru target lesbians 25 years ago? Welcome back to Tales in Advertising. I am Baron von Snide. The Subaru reputation is not just a stereotype, but a highly targeted and progressive marketing campaign launched in the 1990s. Subaru's role, cultivating lesbian-friendly imagery, went largely unnoticed by the straight community. They missed the subtext. We found winks and nudges worked best for our campaign. We had one spot where the license plate read Xena Lover, and the tagline was, once you're out, you're out. Playful coding was appreciated by the consumer. They liked deciphering the code. Meanwhile, the straight community only noticed things like the bike rack. Subaru went on to sponsor events like gay pride parades and hired Martina Navratilova, a former tennis star and lesbian, to star in their ads. Subaru's campaign was a hit and led to financial success. The lesbian-focused campaign did not single-handedly save the struggling car maker, but in the 2010s, only Tesla grew faster than Subaru. Listen, all we did was find a group that felt marginalized, unseen, and unheard, and made some ads for them.
So this TikToker by the name of Martin points out how Subarus were marketed directly towards lesbians. And this is something that's really interesting because I think we should touch on this from a couple of fronts. First and foremost, we need to talk about sort of the manipulativeness that exists within these types of advertisements. They mentioned being incredibly subtle. And why would they want to be subtle? Well, they're basically dog whistling to parts of the queer community to say, hey, you should buy a Subaru. But doing so in such a way that cis-het folks might not recognize it. Because of course, they don't want to alienate potentially homophobic buyers. And see, that is what is really revealing. Because the reality is that while this TikToker framed this as though it was a good progressive thing that Subaru did, the harsh reality is that they just cared about their profits. They just saw a market that wasn't being marketed to, and they marketed to that market. They thought that lesbians, for whatever reason, had money to buy Subarus, and they wanted to sell the Subarus to them. And so, in some sense, this is how capitalism can be progressive, but there's a warning that comes with this. The big asterisk that comes with the progressiveness of capitalism is the fact that they only care about marginalized communities if and when they have money. The very instant, for example, the lesbian community were to magically lose any type of material wealth they have, then all of a sudden Subaru would stop caring about them. And see, here is the issue. Capitalists want to make money. So if it is to their financial interest, they will put a rainbow flag on their logo, or they will donate some money to a local pride organization. But if that pride organization starts talking about the evils of capitalism, they might pull back their funding. And now we've got ourselves in a whole nother conundrum. Because the reality is, even advocacy organizations find themselves being influenced by this type of capitalism. This rainbow capitalism sells itself as being incredibly progressive, but it fundamentally disregards huge chunks of the community. Like, so for example, marriage equality. Marriage equality is great, but also marriage equality, as it was done, mostly helped people who are already wealthy, mostly helped people who are already financially stable, and there was a profitable market for capitalists. Because if you look at the response to the AIDS crisis, or if you look at, for example, disabled queer folks on Social Security can't get married, because if they do, they might lose their benefits. And when it comes to dealing with HIV, the medications that exist are incredibly expensive. And so this is the harsh reality, that they will only care about marginalized people to the extent that there are wealthy people within those marginalized communities. And on top of this, they will use their influence as rainbow capitalists to try and separate the queer community from itself. They will try to isolate the more privileged folks within the community and support their interests, and then try to drive a wedge between the more marginalized people in the community and the more privileged people within the community. So if you have giant corporations donating to Pride, then Pride is going to be less focused about marginalization and oppression and inequality, and it's going to be more focused on things that are largely aesthetic. And this is a major problem, but it's something that capitalism has done many times. They try to divide particular communities. They focused on the most wealthy and privileged so that they can profit off of them, while leaving the most marginalized behind and pretending that they've made all the progress there is to make. The reality is, there's not going to be equality for trans folks until the government not only has universal health care for everybody, but also guarantees people's ability to have transition care. Without that equality, then trans rights really only exist for rich trans people who can afford to transition. These are the things that are essential and critical to understand, that ultimately, at the end of the day, the real oppression that is happening in society might be squeezed into more marginalized subsets of broader communities under capitalism, but it will not ever truly be eliminated until we move to a democratic economy. Until we have democratic control over the economy, the rainbow capitalists will always be exploiting marginalized communities and creating fractures within them in order to maintain their profits. Because once again, while it may seem nice and progressive, and in some sense it is, I'm not going to completely erase the role that some rainbow capitalism has played in increasing acceptance for queer folks. But at the same time, that acceptance comes with a huge asterisk, and that asterisk being the determinant of wealth. Because if you're rich and trans, you might be able to find a really comforting circle of super awesome, supportive friends, and you might be able to live in a cozy city where people are progressive and generally cool about trans issues. But if you're poor and trans, you're going to have to deal with not only being potentially trapped in a harmful situation where people around you are unsupportive, but also might lack access to basic health care. And so truly, the needs of the most marginalized will never be fully addressed until we move beyond capitalism altogether.
This is Ben Carollo with Rebel Headquarters. You can catch my show Galaxy Brain on the Young Turks Twitch channel every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. If you want to stay up to date with my content, you can follow me at Benjamin Carollo on Twitter. And for those of you that might be wondering or have noticed, my pronouns are in fact she, her.